Our 22 WRX is heat soaking on the dyno. And while that's primarily being caused with us not having a fan to attach to the top mount, when going above stock boost levels, it's always a pretty good idea to add some extra cooling. So today, we're gonna be testing out this big boy top mount from ETS. I'm Ernie from Rally Sport Direct. Let's get cooler. Can't believe I just put pit vipers on my face. All right, before we test out the ETS intercooler, I'll show you guys how to install it. So you're gonna wanna remove a couple of the 12 millimeters first. So mainly this one, these two on the manifold, and then two to the bracket from the intercooler to the manifold. All right, once you have all those unbolted, the intercooler is pretty much ready to go. As you can see, the only thing you gotta do is loosen this hose clamp and undo this clip right here. The hose clamp is a 7 mil right here on the underside of the pipe. Now to undo this clip, grab a small flathead. It'll have a little indent for the end of the clip to sit in. So I just pry right here, just kind of guide it with my finger. It's not under like crazy tension or anything. Then I believe just got to do the same thing on the other side. There we go. Once you hear that pop, I think you'll know you're good to go. And we sure are. Now that we have our stock intercooler out, all we need to do is transfer the boost pipe, the little rubber grommets on the mounting brackets, and the O-ring to the manifold over to our ETS intercooler. 3 12 mil bolts, same old, just get them off. Next, we're going to want to remove the rubber grommets on the brackets on both sides of the stock intercooler. Give it a little push with your hands. And if you're struggling, grab a flathead, stick it in there and just pry it out. Should come out. And last but not least, we have this little O-ring on the manifold exit. Grab a pick and pull it out. And that's it. That's everything that we need to transfer, taking off the stock intercooler. Now, before we proceed, I'm gonna quickly weigh these two, just for science. All right, so while we have both intercoolers stripped down, it's a good time to compare and contrast. So first things first, weight-wise, the stock intercooler weighs 8.9 pounds. The ETS intercooler weighs 18.2, which is kind of expected being that it's more ruggedly built and also gets rid of the plastic end tank. Now, size-wise, the stock intercooler is about 2 3/4 inches thick, 20 inches wide, and 7 inches long, while the ETS intercooler is 4 inches thick, 21 inches wide, but also 7 inches long. Now, you may be thinking, an inch here or there, is that really gonna make a difference? And honestly, I think that's a better question for your girlfriend and not me. But on the real note, what really matters with intercoolers is the volume of the core, and how you get the volume is by multiplying those 3 numbers. So once we get to the volume, that's where you really start to see the differences. The stock intercooler's volume is 385 cubic inches, whereas the ETS intercooler's volume is 588. That's a difference of 65%, and I'm sure me, your girlfriends, and you can all agree that that should really make a difference. Anyways, with all the girlfriend jokes aside, let's get back to the install, shall we? Okay, first thing we're gonna do is get the manifold O-ring into the ETS intercooler. They've machined a lip into the end tank, so should be relatively easy. Voila, done there. Now it's time to reinstall our grommets, and first thing you're going to want to do here is actually remove the metal sleeve inside. You can just pry it off with a flathead, or else you're going to have a really fun time trying to squeeze it into the bracket on the ETS top mount. Voila, there we go. Then once it's actually sitting in the bracket, just go ahead and slide the metal sleeve back in. Okay, once you have your rubber grommets back in on both sides, it's time to get the boost pipe back on. Now, make sure to keep the O-ring in here, and also ETS provides the hardware to mount the boost pipe to their intercooler. Now the intercooler is ready for reinstall. Okay, so you're gonna kind of want to position it at the very back of the engine bay. We'll slide our boost pipe on and slide it onto position onto the manifold. All right, now I think we're good to tighten everything back down. Subaru luckily makes it easy because every single bolt that we've uninstalled from here is exactly the same, which is, I can't even stress how nice. Now all that's left to do is to tighten up the hose clamp that we previously loosened and to just make sure that this clip is all the way back in place, and just like that, we're done. This was honestly pretty easy. All right, so now that it's on, and man, it's some engine bay eye candy, I gotta tell you guys, we gotta put it through its paces versus the stock intercooler. And how exactly will we do that? Well, luckily we recently picked up a cob access port for 22 WRX, and one of its most underrated features, in my opinion, is actually the data logging. So you can record, aka data log, all sorts of things like your air fuel, your boost, and then export it as an Excel spreadsheet using Access Port Manager. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna monitor intake air temperatures and intake manifold air temperatures, and we're gonna drive the thing down to Mexico, do maybe 4 or 5 runs, first through third, all the way wide open throttle, and then come back to the shop, slap the stock intercooler back on, do it again, and then, well, compare our data. So without further ado, let's go do it. So I'm arriving at our typical test site, and I'm gonna take a phone video in case you guys can't see through the camera, but there's a raid going on. Literally, so that's the raid. That's the street right there where we do our testing. So, yeah, guess I'm gonna have to go somewhere else. Okay, so I found another road that will hopefully work. Currently intake temps at 52 and manifold temps at 79. 81. As you idle, it will rise, but we're gonna try to match that when we come back with the stock intercooler. 52, 82. Okay, here we go. That's red line. It's not officer behind me, right? I would have already gotten lit up, right? Right? Right. Okay, cruise at 35 to the stop sign. Okay, hit red line again. Okay, flipping the UE, going for our last run. Okay, and that's a wrap. Stopping our logging. Now let's go back, slap the stock intercooler on, and do it again. Okay, 82, started logging. Let's do this thing. Kind of try and keep it more or less the same. Nice slow cruise up to the stop sign. Okay, here we go again. Okay. that concludes our run with the stock intercooler. Let's get back to the shop and compare the results. All right, and we're back, and I have the results graphed out in front of me. So, orange line will be our manifold temps, and blue line will be our intake temps. Now, quick little disclaimer, by the time we got it back out there with the stock intercooler, temperatures have actually dropped a few degrees compared to the ETS run, so maybe just take that into consideration. Now, for the actual results. So, surprisingly, as you can see, the stock intercooler actually cooled down a bit quicker than the ETS one did when we got going. Now, that's actually kind of a common flaw of bigger intercoolers. Since they have more mass, they shed heat a bit slower than, say, a smaller intercooler. But those few seconds don't really matter compared to the whole result. So if you keep looking, you'll see that the stock intercooler jumps right back up to 85 degrees after a bit of sustained power, whereas the ETS top mount manages to just nick 80 degrees right at the end when I'm pretty sure we're pretty much coming to a complete stop. And overall, the ETS top mount also managed to keep temperatures lower. The ETS top mount almost got down to 60 degrees, whereas after the initial run on the stock intercooler, the lowest it got to was maybe about 65. Now, what do these results tell us? Well, the ETS intercooler is obviously better at cooling the air. Keep in mind, we're doing these tests at sub-zero temperatures, and I bet if we were doing these in the summer, we'd see an even bigger difference. But I also gotta say, Subaru did pretty well with this intercooler. I did a bit of digging, and it's actually pretty much the exact same dimensions as a previous gen STI intercooler, but in a WRX. So, I don't know, couldn't stay away from having to give Subaru a little bit of props for this guy. All right, guys, well, that'll about do it for today's video. What do you guys think of the results? Let me know down in the comments below, because me personally, I was maybe expecting a bit more of a difference, but as I said, I suspect us doing this at sub-zero temperatures definitely probably made the results not as drastic as they would be in hot temperatures. But anyways, if you found today's video useful, make sure to hit that subscribe button. I'll have plenty of more content for the 22 WRX coming. And as always, appreciate you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next one.